Hey guys, what is going on? This is Wrestlelamia back with another episode. AEW is on the road to Double or Nothing, so what twists and turns should AEW fans expect on tonight's Dynamite? Join us now as Wrestlelamia looks at St. Patrick's Day Slam, the 16th March edition of AEW's flagship show, as well as the latest wrestling news, including more rumors WWE is holding a premium event in UK, Ric Flair says WWE star doesn't belong in Hall of Fame, Bret Hart in AEW, and more. As always, Wrestlelamia won't recap the matches, but look at the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. The good. Pay-per-view level main event. Tonight's cage match between AEW Women's Champion Dr. Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa was a wild and bloody bout as both women busted each other open and made the most of the cage match's potential for violence. Baker and Rosa showed why they're two of AEW's best, two wrestlers capable of submission wrestling, high spots, and brutal brawling. This was an excellent end to Rosa's quest for the AEW Women's Championship as she was finally able to get a match where Baker's partners in crime, Rebel and Jamie Hayter, were unable to interfere due to the cage match stipulation. AEW has been wise to protect the cage match as a place where outside interference rarely happens, quite a novelty given how much this aspect of the cage match has been diluted throughout the last 3 decades. Jericho is sports entertainment. Chris Jericho has done it again, reimagining himself to tweak his persona just enough to keep himself fresh despite over 30 years in the business. Jericho solidified his status as a heel on AEW by taking the usual heel trope of claiming to be the best ever and going even further by calling himself a sports entertainer rather than a wrestler. With his Jericho Appreciation Society, Daniel Garcia, Jake Hager, and 2.0 present, Jericho took things further, rechristening 2.0 in an obvious mockery of the WWE's penchant for renaming wrestlers with often awful new names. Jericho said, "Then you got Jeff Parker and Matt Lee of 2.0. And by the way, that's a stupid name from bad creative and you'll never hear it again. We don't use made-up names in the Jericho Appreciation Society, we use our real names." Jericho renamed Matt Lee Daddy Magic Matt Menard and Jeff Parker Cool Hand Angelo Parker. Jericho's character harkens back to Mick Foley's short sojourn in ECW back in the 90s, where he mocked ECW's hardcore base by changing his own hardcore style into a methodical and intentionally boring wrestler. While Jericho's new persona isn't entirely new, then again what is in wrestling, it has a lot of promise, and with any luck, his new faction can help get 2.0 and/or Daniel Garcia over as more than mid-card acts. Hardys are back. The Hardys are back and AEW picked the right opponents, Private Party, for Matt and Jeff to wrestle against in their first AEW outing. While it's clear that today's version of the Hardys can't work the same style or pace as the Hardys of 20 years ago, they can still go, and the team of Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn complemented them perfectly. Even better, AEW brought back Matt and Jeff's old school music, a nice bit of nostalgia, and something the promotion normally couldn't do, except that the song is stock music which the WWE doesn't own. In fact, you've probably heard it before on TV or at sporting events. MJF spoils Wardlow's title win. Anyone who thought MJF was going to forget, let alone forgive, Wardlow's betrayal of him at Revolution was in for a wake-up call when MJF and American Top Team spoiled Wardlow's chance to capture his first AEW championship. AEW excelled with its booking tonight as it avoided taking the easy route of Wardlow defeating Scorpio Sky for the TNT Championship or having Sky retained by disqualification for outside interference. Instead, Dan Lambert's MMA muscle kept Sky in the match, while Sean Spears distracted the referee, giving MJF a chance to throw Wardlow into the ring post, stunning him enough for Sky to get a roll-up. AEW protected Wardlow as he put up an admirable, but ultimately futile, post-match fight against American Top Team, MJF, and Sean Spears. An MJF vs. Wardlow feud could be good, but it's going to be interesting to see how AEW books the big man so he doesn't lose the momentum he's built up over the last few months, squashing opponent after opponent. Equally interesting is what's next for Scorpio Sky, as he may be more than a transitional champion, a sign that AEW plans on giving him a serious push. The usual segments. Tonight's show featured the usual blend of matches and segments designed to further storylines, keep fans tuned in, and set things up for Rampage, although Wrestlelamia still thinks AEW's booking of its Friday night show needs more help. The bad. A misguided mismatch. Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley are a fantastic force in AEW, and the storyline of these two veterans teaming with William Regal to build their own dynasty of young stars has considerable potential. Nonetheless, AEW needs to exercise caution when it comes to who they battle, as seen by tonight's match against best friends Wheeler Yuta and Chuck Taylor. Yuta and Taylor worked well against the veteran team, but the sight of comedy characters Orange Cassidy and Danhausen at ringside took away from the gravitas of Mox's and Bryan's new agenda. The only way this will work is if Yuta tells his best friend colleagues that he's tired of their antics and wants something serious. Going too far? Is AEW going too far with the violence in its women's matches? As exciting as tonight's cage match between Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa was, the optics of two women busted open and doing spots with thumbtacks may be problematic for AEW's image down the road, especially when the company goes to negotiate new TV deals and/or advertising. It goes without saying that the promotion is merely allowing its women to perform in the same style as its men, but there's no denying the double standard that exists against women, a double standard you can be sure the WWE will exploit if possible. We've already heard the WWE criticize AEW as a blood and guts promotion, but the sight of two bloody women brutalizing each other needs reconsideration. What do you think? The Downright Ugly. Nothing ugly about tonight's special episode of Dynamite, as it featured a high-octane main event and an action-packed TNT title match. AEW continues to take its time with its storylines, letting them play out over time without dragging them out. WWE coming to United Kingdom this September. Topping today's news are more rumors that the WWE will hold a pay-per-view in the United Kingdom. WrestleVotes is tweeting, "Source states that the long-awaited WWE United Kingdom pay-per-view return will take place Saturday, September 3rd at Principality Stadium in Cardiff, Wales. That is the same weekend as AEW's All Out pay-per-view." This is huge news, as WWE has discussed wanting to hold a premium live event in the UK for several years. Unfortunately, the pandemic put this on hold, but now that travel restrictions are lifting, it looks like WWE President Nick Khan's plans to expand WWE's international presence are taking flight. The fact that WWE is airing the show the same weekend as AEW's All Out event shows WWE has no intention of making things easy for AEW. Could this lead to more head-to-head competition between the two promotions? Steve Austin open to an in-ring return. Batten down the hatches as Stone Cold Steve Austin is giving more hints that he might return to the ring after an absence of nearly 20 years. Austin, who last wrestled at Wrestlemania 19, was rumored to wrestle at this year's Showcase of the Immortals, but it now appears that he'll only be appearing in the ring for the Kevin Owens show. Nonetheless, Austin recently told Rich Eisen, "In this business, never say never. I said I would never get in, but prompted by the right person at the right time, hell, I wish Kevin Owens would have pissed me off a little sooner than he did to give me more time to prep." The Texas Rattlesnake added that he's been working on his conditioning and that he plans on having a blast at WWE's biggest show of the year. Ric Flair says WWE stars should never enter WWE Hall of Fame. With a career dating back to the early 1970s, Nature Boy Ric Flair has worked with thousands of wrestlers, so when the two-time WWE Hall of Famer says he doesn't think someone belongs in the WWE Hall of Fame, people are going to listen. Slick Rick recently discussed this during his new Woo Nation podcast, singling out former ECW World Champion Shane Douglas. Who is Shane Douglas? Who is he today? I'm asking. You know him real well. Who is he? He certainly means nothing to me in terms of being a talent. He never succeeded anywhere. He can say what he wants to say. I don't think you'll see him in a Hall of Fame anywhere anytime soon. You may recall that Douglas repeatedly called Flair out during the 1990s, with some fans feeling Douglas was downright disrespectful to the dirtiest player in the game. It seems Douglas's comments alienated Flair, but Douglas claims he's tried to smooth things over with the 16-time world champion. Given Douglas's past criticism of Flair, is it any wonder Flair feels the way he does? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Is Bret Hart AEW bound? Is Bret Hart heading to AEW to manage FTR? Fans are talking about this following the Young Bucks backstage confrontation with FTR on the 16th March Dynamite, as the Bucks commented on FTR firing manager Tully Blanchard and that they could hire the best there is and still come in second against them. Following last week's dismissal of Blanchard, FTR's Dax Harwood tweeted, "Bret, what are you up to?" Wrestling's excellence of execution has appeared in AEW before, unveiling the promotion's AEW World Heavyweight Championship in 2019 at Double or Nothing. With AEW preparing to hold the Owen Hart Cup tournament, an extended appearance by the Hitman shouldn't be ruled out. Logan Paul staying in WWE? Last but not least, Logan Paul is scheduled to team with The Miz at WrestleMania 38 to take on Rey and Dominic Mysterio, but does he plan on sticking around after? During a chat with TalkSport's Alex McCarthy, Logan said he has some ideas he'd like to pitch to Vince McMahon, and that, "To be honest, bro, probably. It just has to make sense with my schedule. I'm doing so much stuff, and I have to really be careful where I allocate my energy. This happened with boxing. At first I did it, I tried it out and I loved it, so I kept doing it." Paul added, "Today was the first day because we had training today. I was like, ooh yeah, this is fucking fun. So yeah, I fell in love with this sport and I soak in all the energy at WrestleMania and I feel like there's a future for me here, man. I'm gonna have to run with it. But it's not my decision, it's up to the fans. Either love me or hate me, that's great. But if they're indifferent to me, we got a fucking problem and I'll probably get out of this sport." Much depends on Logan's performance at Mania, as fans have no interest in watching a celebrity stumble their way through a match. While Logan has shown a talent for inciting the fans, he'll have to impress them when he wrestles. Well guys, there you have it, Wrestleamia's look at the 16th March edition of Dynamite, including the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, as well as the wrestling latest news and rumors you need to know. What do you think of tonight's show? Be sure to leave your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time for some more wrestling content.